back to another episode of The Outer Rim Rambling with myself, the outlaw Adam Neeson, joined as always by Jedi Knight Danny Brown. How are you, Danny?
I'm all good. How are you, Adam?
I'm good, mate, because we've got a very special guest today.
Yep.
Someone who has made an impact in the world of Star Wars more than Max Rebo.
Rebo's got the beat, and the band plays on. You can relive it all with Kenner's Star Wars Return of the Jedi Collection. Introducing size noodles and the Rebo Band. Jabba the Hutt action playset sold separately.
What? I mean, are you sure you want to make that claim?
I want to say it.
Yeah,
You
fair,
know,
fair.
he's an artist. Max Rebo, of course, is a musical artist
Yeah.
in the form of Chiz. But of course, we have today comic book artist, mastermind, Will Sliney. Will, how are you?
Not too bad yourselves. I
Oh,
love
good.
that. You should rank all your Star Wars comic book artists on the level of obscure characters.
Yeah. Being compared to
So,
Max Rebo, is that something? Have you
not
ever
bad.
had the
Definitely
privilege?
new. Definitely a
Yeah.
new one.
Good. You can add that to like your bio, just
Well, he's
up there
probably
with
one
Max
of the
Rebo.
few ones I've never drawn as well. I'm trying to think.
Ooh.
Yet,
Although
yet.
I've definitely done. There's stuff that hasn't come out that has a band in it, but he wasn't in that band. So
Mm.
sorry, Max.
You know what? There's still time. There's still time to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
Max in
yeah.
there somewhere, but
Yeah.
that's exciting. Exciting to know that there's more Star Wars bands to come. That's yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a Max Rebo comic, like one issue comic?
I'm not
Um,
surprised.
Yeah.
was it like
Back in the Dark
Revelation?
Horse days.
Not
Mhm.
even, I think recently. I think there was
Oh,
like
wow.
a Smugglers and Revelations or something. I just remember
Wow.
the cover of him, and I was like,
Cool.
I'll be getting that.
There he is. Yeah. Got to pick up the Max Rebo. Oh, yeah. So, well, where did it all begin in terms of Star Wars? Where does your Star Wars journey sort of start?
Sure. Well, the first thing I can remember, so we used to have a van would drive around with tapes, VHSs to rent. So our blockbuster, shall we say, was a mobile van. It would come once a week. And when I was too young to go up to it myself, my mom would go up and she'd get a new movie.
Hmm.
And she came back one day with Star Wars. And my earliest memory of Star Wars was telling my mom, "Oh, mom, I've already seen Star Wars. You know, you got me something I'd already seen." Little did I know there was such a thing back then called sequels. So, and it just blew my mind. It was the first time I'd ever experienced anything that expanded beyond like this one self-contained thing. And I think that very thing just unlocked the whole expanded universe for me. And it just kept on growing. The age I was then when the special editions were released in the cinema was a good age for me. And that like I was very young, still mad into drawing and stuff. And that's when I was like starting to draw posters and little my own little comic books and things like that, and just playing in that world whenever I could. And that whole, Star Wars has always been brilliant at that. It's always encouraged you to do that, whether it's through making your own fan films or comics or just playing with the toys or whatever it is. And that's what's just kept me so close to it all these years.
Cool. I like that, as you say, it's this idea of world building and
Mm.
you get to sort of explore and look at all these random characters. Like we said, even Max Rebo, like he just appears in Return of the Jedi, but now he's kind of caught people's imaginations. And it's like, well, what's he doing? Where does he go? And then he appears in the Book of Boba Fett, and that just furthers people's like, well, what else is he up?
Yeah,
And
exactly. Like we're able to tell loads of stories on a planet called Earth with these really boring people, and there's an endless list of them. So imagine what stories you can tell on this like mad galaxy of stuff. So like the possibilities are endless, and that's awesome.
yeah. And then from there, you get to become involved in the world building of Star Wars. How
Hmm.
did that happen?
I joined in at two separate occasions, actually. So before my Marvel days, I was brought in to work with Panini, who were doing the young kids comics at the time. And those were non-canon, possibly. I'm not 100% sure. Little stories kind of set in the Clone Wars world. And I was a big fan of the Clone Wars anyway, so that was really, really fun to do. But the big one was of course what I do at Marvel. I had been at Marvel for a long time. Like I basically worked for a year in Defenders and then did about five or so years on Spider-Man. And then basically the Star Wars team came knocking one day asking like would I be interested in coming over there? They liked what I did. They thought it would work well for Star Wars. Big Star Wars fan, so that all works. And I happily jumped over and I've basically been there for 7 years now, actually, which is amazing, just working on Star Wars stuff. And that's when it really kicked off, and that's when it really kind of switched over to, the things that you're doing are really tied into whatever's happening. So whether it was like the rise of Kylo Ren was probably the most impactful story that I got to be a part of, in terms of like we were really working with all the team when it kind of built up to the movie, then all the kind of the Galaxy's Edge stuff. It's been great.
With the sort of Galaxy's Edge stuff, were you involved in like Disney parks? So did they come to you with like the concept art and sort of say to you, can you help us fill out this world that is canon to the story?
Yeah. So normally when you're working on a Star Wars book, you'd have Team Marvel and Team Lucasfilm, and then when you step into the parks, then that side of it is involved in it too. That's essentially what we got to do, both for Galaxy's Edge and for everything that we did with I always forget how to pronounce the name, the Halcyon.
Mhm.
Those two stories were really, really like wonderful, fun stories, kind of set in those kind of world. And there was a different level of involvement in there. Like when drawing Galaxy's Edge was the most bizarre experience. I think I was the first comic book artist ever to be drawing a place that didn't exist, that was going to exist after I had drawn it. So it was a very strange thing. And it was very important to try and get this place right and have it look right, even though it didn't exist. And I'll never forget, like, I was brought over for the opening, and the first thing I saw when I walked in was a young kid holding up the Galaxy's Edge comic book and comparing the page to the buildings in the background. Thankfully, I put an awful lot of time into it to make sure that was as correct as possible, and it turned out okay in the end.
That's class. That must have been so surreal to kind of see that moment where you're like, there's my art and there's the reality, there's the real thing. That must have been
Yeah.
like mind
Yeah,
blowing.
no, yeah, you're walking around in it. Now, obviously, I wasn't the one that designed and came up with Galaxy's Edge, but the little bits that we did were crept into it all over the place. Like if we had a battle where a lightsaber bashed off a wall, you'd come back there and there's a little divot and a mark in the wall from the lightsaber. It was just amazing to do that. And like going into Doc Onder's Den of Antiquities and seeing all the little nuggets and stuff that we got to draw under there. Like the baby Sarlacc was the big one for the first issue. And then you walk in and it's there and it's moving around. So yeah, it was amazing.
That's really cool. What about
Mm,
then looking at, say, the rise of Kylo Ren? You say, you
mm.
were working closely with Lucasfilm. There's obviously there's stuff there that is coming from the movies. Did you sort of get to say to Lucasfilm, listen, I need to see Kylo Ren's helmet from every possible angle. Can you send me archival pictures and references, or did you get to go and play in the archive? Is how did that
Uh,
work?
So you're definitely supported with what you need for sure, and obviously like it's a very closely guarded system in how it kind of does all of that stuff. But yeah, no, like there's a team there essentially to help us and to look after us and to mind us, and they're also of course minding the story, minding the canon, minding everything like that, and that's amazing. And it's amazing that it had that level of care that goes into it. And there are times I'll make mistakes and I'll put in something that shouldn't be there. Like I had a dewback on Batu, and there are no dewbacks in Batu apparently. And they're there to spot that, because how would I know that when it's
Yeah.
a new world? So things like that happen that way. But yes, for certain, like especially when you're working on a direct tie into one of the movies and stuff like that, you need to know what things look like. Like when we did The Rise of Skywalker, I certainly got to draw things and elements that might not necessarily have made it onto the screen, and but some stuff has been made that hasn't been made it that way, and we get the fun. We have more real estate often in times in comics to show and to do things. So look, I'm not going to lie, it's always fun peeking behind the curtain and seeing things that not many people have seen before, for sure.
Yeah. Would you, I know they sort of talk about the keepers of the holocrons, those that have that. And I was probably the person that said, there's no dewbacks on Batu. Take that out. But who have you kind of, do you want to name drop some of maybe the bigger names that you've got to speak to?
I don't really know who you're looking for there. Um,
Dave Filoni, perhaps?
Oh,
Or
okay. No, I've never worked with Dave. I'd love to. I love everything that he does, which is amazing.
Mhm,
And he worked for a long time with a brilliant Irish artist called Gillian Plunkett, who did a load of the designs for the Clone Wars. So,
mhm.
Well, one of the masterminds sort of in that brain trust is Charles Soule, and you
mm.
you worked with Charles on the rise of Kylo Ren. How does working with Charles sort of work? Does he work in the Marvel method? No?
No, no, no. Yeah, I've only ever done one script in my life in the Marvel method, and that was probably down to deadlines was the reason why very few people do it that way now. No, but like Charles, working with Charles has been amazing. Charles is one of my best friends. We both got to know each other before we worked in comics professionally, as in when we were trying to break in. We were potentially going to work together on a creator-owned book before all of the Star Wars kicked off. Then we got to do The Rise of Kylo Ren, which was amazing. Finally getting to work together. And of course, now we get to do a whole bunch of creator-owned stuff with the Shrouded College, you know. So we're in touch every day. I was literally talking to him earlier today about stuff like that and future projects and all that kind of stuff. So he's certainly Mr. Star Wars when it comes to all of that world now. So
It was funny because sort of before all that, I sort of knew Charles from his She-Hulk run.
oh well. Yeah.
And then whenever he was announced for Star Wars, I was sort of like, and then listened to a podcast of him talking passionately. I think he was with Brian Michael Bendis maybe talking about it, and I was like, oh, this guy gets it. And then I see like a
Mm.
behind the scenes feature on like a DVD, and he's in the room
Yeah.
telling everybody else what to do. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
guys, what up in the world?
Yeah, no, what he's done is amazing. What they did with the High Republic is incredible. The whole thing is brilliant, and some of the concepts and characters and stuff that he's brought to Star Wars in the last 5 or so years has been incredible.
What about, we were going to ask you about Ren. So you got
Yeah,
to co-create this character Ren, who kind of has a massive impact on Kylo Ren, you know,
yeah.
and just how was that kind of going about creating this original character that has kind of made quite an impact on the comic stories, and then I suppose in a way what we get to see in other media across Star Wars.
Yeah, for sure. There's his helmet up there in the top right, left-hand corner of the room in the background, actually. Yeah, like that. Like you sometimes like I've got to create lots of characters in Marvel and Star Wars and stuff. And I remember when we were working on Ren, I was like, this one's important. This one's very important. Obviously, the role that he had, not just like the leader of the Knights of Ren, but the role he was going to play in turning Ben Solo to the dark side, all that kind of stuff was great. Has been cast as Christian Slater doing the voice in the Lego animated
Yeah,
thing,
I was
which
going to
was
ask you about that. I was
amazing.
going to be like, how does it feel to have Christian Slater voice
Well,
that
it's
character?
funny. I wonder, does it, because it's always been amazing how they seem to like bring the voice actors over. I wonder, does that include work for Lego as well? And he would totally work for it. So
Mhm.
I wouldn't be, I have no idea. I wouldn't be surprised if they consider that even in the Lego world, which I think is so funny to think about things like that. But it was a lot of fun. Like Charles had some brilliant concepts. Like when we were designing him, he's like, yeah, I want him to. Like one of my favorite, like it's not said in the comic, but like Charles has mentioned this in podcasts before. He's almost like the opposite of Darth Vader. He wears a mask to cover up the one part of his body that isn't scarred and burnt, because that's the bit that he's least proud of when he wants to show the pain, and that is the rain, the way of the rain, and all those kind of things. So it was really cool. It was one of the first things that I got to do with Charles working on the Rise of Kylo Ren, and it was when we really started to both of us see that like, geez, we're working really, really well together here. Maybe we should keep this up in the future. Yeah, it was magic. It was great.
The comic itself is actually quite hard to find these days,
Yeah.
which is really weird since
Mm.
sort of the character's popularity has grown more. It's one I haven't unfortunately read because I can't find it, and I refuse to go to digital.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough.
I'm
Yeah.
a paper man. I need my paper.
Mm.
But with the latest sort of Rise of Skywalker comic, how many times did you have to watch the film?
I've watched it loads of times anyway.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I stick on Star Wars on in the background when I'm working. That was a funny project because like I started it and then it was paused because of the pandemic and paused for way longer. And I worked on loads of Star Wars stuff in the meantime. But yeah, so I had watched it times in the middle in between issues 1 and 2, not knowing when this thing was ever gonna kind of come back. But then, like when you're working on it, like I literally would just stick it on in the background whenever I could, because you just kind of want to absorb as much of it as you possibly can. And some adaptations you treat differently, even in the world of Star Wars. Like some of them, you want to be as close to it as possible. Then with the Rise of Skywalker, I really tried to do something totally different and have this whole yin and yang, you know, the diet thing going on with the two lads, and have that in the layout of the pages and stuff, and show something very, very different, which was cool. And we really got to push things and show things differently than they were in the movie, and kind of like get things across in different ways that might not necessarily, you know, almost like different directorial choices, you know, using kind of comic book storytelling. So that was fun.
And with Rise of Skywalker, to me, has the best outfits.
Okay. Of all the movies, is it?
Yeah, I just love Poe's look. I think it's just
Yeah,
sort of the swashbuckler, and Finn's look is so cool. But with comic book adaptations, that's how I got into comic books. Whenever
that's interesting.
I would
Yeah.
go down to Waterford, and there
Mhm.
was a shop there, and it sold a comic adaptation of Spider-Man 1, like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
Oh, I remember actually had that. Yeah, they
It
don't
was
do
a
that
it,
that often in the Marvel world anymore, but yeah, that's fun.
it was a great
Yeah.
book. So hopefully, like, if kids are getting into, because getting into comic books is complicated. Although I always tell
Mm.
people the old Stanley, every comic book is your first comic book, just jump in
Mm.
anywhere. But with an adaptation, it's like a perfect jumping on point for someone who's seen the film and
Yeah, I
wants to get
agree.
into that medium.
Yeah, my dream Star Wars project, and I've said this before, and I've said it to Mark and everything, is to do adaptations of like the original three movies, but like you would normally have 6 issues or whatever to do it. I would like give me 18 issues, and let's show the scenes 5 minutes before every scene and 5 minutes after it, and what's going on over here when the camera, what isn't normally here. I'd love to do something like that. So it's the exact same through line story, but there's way more. Like, how did Darth Vader feel when he realizes that that ship has crashed on Tatooine? You know, that must have messed him up. And then I'm pretty sure the stormtroopers would have reported back that they blew up his, well, not his, but you know what I mean, his mom's
His stepbrother. Yeah,
his mom's
yeah,
stepkids, is that
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Stepson and wife. Do you know what I mean? So like that's pretty messed up. That's cool. Like obviously that wasn't the story then, like, you know, but we have the chance in comics to go back and to do things like that. And like I can imagine him slaughtering every single stormtrooper that was involved in that. And that would be an incredible scene to do, you know. So
I want to see that. I want to see
yeah.
him like sitting in his wee meditation chamber, being like, "Did you just say the laws?" You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and then come back
Yeah.
mad. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that'd be
It's
great.
like the special edition.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Extra special edition.
That's what you should call it, the extra Star Wars, the extra special
Yeah.
edition, and just release
Yeah.
that. That'd be great.
Yeah. Who
I want
knows?
to,
Maybe one day.
you know, you've got the people to speak to. I think you just need to get in
Need
their
the
ear about
power.
it. Yeah, but I wanted to touch on, you said there when doing the Rise of Skywalker, you had the film on in the background, and I kind of want to ask you about your creative process with that. I know with like certain directors and that they'll maybe have like a soundtrack that they create while they're
Mm.
writing or while they're thinking the scenes or storyboard. And I wanted to ask, did
Yeah.
you have some similar, so working on Star Wars, did you have John Williams playing, and during maybe when you're working on Spider-Man stuff, were you playing, I like to think, I think the best Spider-Man soundtrack is the Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man stuff. It's so flighty and
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Is
The
that,
second one, especially.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely do that. You certainly wouldn't sustain that for when you're working on for 9 months on a project.
no, no.
It'll switch up. But it usually with the excitement at the start, like I can't say what it is, but I've just been offered something that's new for me, and I'm playing music related to it all day just to kind of feed that kind of excitement or whatever it might be. So definitely a thing that I do. Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. Again, I like this idea of like you just sitting listening to the Force Awakens soundtrack while
Yeah,
doing Kylo Ren and
gotcha.
stuff, you
Yeah,
know.
like geez, the first time I got a Star Wars gig, I was blaring the theme, like just
Yeah.
running around the house. So
Which just the main theme, or were you just sort of going through
anything.
the
I went
hits?
through the
Yeah.
whole lot. Yeah, yeah, for
That's
sure.
that's great. That is great.
Mm.
What about them? I want to kind of ask, you've said there you've worked kind of quite a bit in the sequel era, you've done some Clone Wars stuff, but what era, if they came to you and said you can work on in any Star Wars era or any Star Wars story, or work focus on a character and come up with something original, what would you like to do with Star Wars?
Yeah, I very fond of Kylo Ren, definitely because of that. So that would be cool. I am definitely a big fan of the Clone Wars as well. I'd actually would love to adapt the Clone Wars, except if I'm drawing it, I'll draw it like it looks in the movies and stuff, you know. So I think that could be interesting. So that era, definitely Clone Wars. uniform Anakin and Obi-Wan would be awesome to do a big run and drawing them. They Obi-Wan has always been my favorite. I only very recently finally got to draw him in the Phantom Menace anniversary thing that I did recently. So yeah.
Was that the one shot?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yep, really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
With you doing the solo book,
Mm.
we sort of know that the production of that was a bit rocky with Ron Howard coming in, halfway through and sort of put it back on track. Were you far enough away from the movie that you were able to just, pull from what the writer was doing, or were you sort of messed with as well on that?
Oh God, I would have had no sight on anything like that whatsoever. Like the movie would have been pretty much done when I would have started drawing it. So because otherwise you definitely would be working on a movie adaptation before being able to see the stuff. Funny enough, that was, I think, like I guess stuff wasn't as easy to pass on back then. So it was Howard Chaykin do the first ever Star Wars one back in the day. And he definitely didn't fully know what Chewbacca looked like. So it's different now for sure. Now we have to, like, you could see it in the books. Like we know what everything looks like, and it's important that we do. So nah, we're way after anything like that might happen on a production of a movie.
Is there sort of a character you haven't drawn? You say with the Clone Wars, but is there a character you haven't drawn from the sequel trilogy that you would like to get into? Like, have you drawn? I suppose you would have with Rise of Skywalker, but
Yeah, no, I've drawn
Babu Frick.
everyone. Yeah, I can't think of yeah, he's in there. Fun to draw, definitely. I think I've pretty much hit them all now, which is cool. Like your namesake, Liam Neeson, is actually an amazing man to draw because he's got the craziest side profile of the face on the planet, especially when he's in Star Wars with that goatee going out as well. So he was fun to do, and he himself and Obi-Wan were kind of the last two that were there because like I got to do my favorite thing I've ever gotten to do is I got to do a spread at the end of the Rise of Skywalker where I basically got to draw every Jedi ever type
Great
thing,
image.
which was just definitely ticked a lot of boxes in terms of who I wanted to draw.
Yeah,
So yeah.
But
yeah,
it's funny you bring that up because controversial on the internet image.
Oh yeah. I remember when it was circulating around and I was like, this is going to be controversial. It was actually it was my idea. It was one of the very few times that I've asked for something. We were certainly doing drawings of them, but like not the way I wanted it to happen. Like it didn't have a double page spread in the script or whatever. So I was like, I think this image is just going to go around the world between Star Wars fans. And I've seen some of the stuff that's been written about it. We didn't change anything or do anything that wasn't hinted at in it, if that makes sense, very carefully. It's very important for us to respect everything that's there. We got to do some really nice things because like the High Republic didn't exist back then, and we got to potentially hint that some of that's in that kind of legacy that's there and stuff as well. And yeah, it was really fun to do. I always enjoy it. Every once in a while I'll lash on a Reddit link. Like I'll get that pop up like as my name will be mentioned. It's like, oh, what's going on here? So I find it a bit of fun, all right.
Do you ever respond? Do you ever sort
God
of go
no.
in debate them? No.
God no. God no. I'd be really mean if I did. If I ever responded, I would just get out,
Yeah,
not let
just run.
someone get
Drop the
back
bomb
to me
and
then
run.
again. I don't have a Reddit account. I don't think I've ever posted on Reddit anyway or whatever, where it seems like the biggest conversation about those happen. So yeah, I know.
Did
It's
you
fun to
ever, when you were drawn by Liam, did you ever
do.
sort of look and think maybe I could pull a Genndy Tartarovsky and do him, as he's depicted in the Clone Wars series?
Oh,
Did
that's
you? And they
interesting.
just did him with like the massive nose.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, I love that series. It
It's
was so
so
good.
good. I mean, I've
Yeah.
got I don't know if you can see there.
Oh, wow.
I've got Dirge and Dooku and
Oh,
Asajj and
cool. Yeah,
Obi-Wan
yeah,
and stuff on
wow.
there in Fordo. So,
Wow.
because
Yeah.
that was, I remember that series being on when I was in secondary school just before Revenge of the Sith came out, and it would be on when I got home from school, and then sometimes in the morning they would show the previous day's episode again in the morning before going to
No
school,
way.
and I was like, I'm
Jeez.
watching
I
it
think
again.
I watched it on the internet. It was on StarWars.com and it would be
Mhm.
in a tiny little box the first way I saw it. So yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's a favorite. It's a constant
Mm.
go back to. I'm so glad Disney Plus put it
Is
on
it
there.
actually? I haven't seen it in age. I
Yeah.
was just thinking that. So
It's
yeah,
on
yeah.
Disney Plus. You can go
Cool.
check them all out. Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely.
Cool.
What about your work? So you do draw with Will? and you do
Yeah.
Will Sliney storytellers. You obviously you're saying you love the idea of creative space, and you obviously do a lot of work in terms of getting children to be creative and get drawing and tell stories. And you're heavily involved with the we've kind of crossed paths before at the Cork Comic Expo,
Oh, okay.
and seeing
Yeah.
you like engage with the people who are coming up to get like comics signed and talk to you, and especially the
Mm.
kids. You have this wonderful way of engaging with people to get them thinking creatively.
Okay.
You want to just
Thanks.
kind of talk a bit about that, because I think it's just really nice. It's
Yeah.
so nice to see somebody who is local from Ireland and who is having that kind of impact.
Yeah, look, it's been mad. I never planned it. Like this all came out of COVID randomly enough. The first day kids were sent home in Ireland. My wife was a school teacher, secondary school teacher. Like it was just so bizarre. And like literally on the first day, I put up a tweet saying, "Oh, look, I'm pretty sure people are stuck at home. Here's my drawing of Spider-Man. Kids, send me on yours." I thought I'd get like 100. I got 10,000. The next day I did Star Wars. I got 25,000 drawings, and it just kind of went on from there. And all of a sudden, around the world, it was like, if you want to get fit, watch Joe Wicks. If you want to learn how to draw, watch Will Slidey. So they were always making these lists, and I was always there. And then I was asked to be part of this. I bought this cheap camera for Black Friday before that, thinking, oh, I'll give YouTube a crack. And a couple of months later, I was making TV with it there was a thing here called Homeschool Hub. They made me the art teacher. I did a couple of hours for that. And straight away, they're like, whoa, we really like what you're doing. Would you have an idea for your own show? Very good friend of mine then is a TV producer. So with him, we got to set up our own production company. And before we knew it, I had a show on Sky and RTE. And like, I'd never set foot on a film set before. And all of a sudden, I'm on a film set. My hair's dyed. I'm all dressed up. And I walk down and I'm like, Jesus Christ, like the drawing I had drawn of the set was there. And like everyone was like, "Hey, Will." And I was like, "Why does everyone know my name?" And there's this big draw with Will sign on the back of the wall. I was like, "All right." It was just mad. And like you might as well have asked me to open up a restaurant. I hadn't a clue what I was doing. But here we are now, 100 episodes later of How to Draw TV. And what's been really nice, like obviously I love going to conventions and love it's nice meeting essentially everyone that would come up to me be a Star Wars fan and a Spider-Man fan. And I'm also a Star Wars fan and a Spider-Man fan, so I could chat to anyone like that for hours. And now it has like basically there's an additional group of people that come up to me, which is young kids with their drawings, which is just the nicest thing on the planet. And like they're showing me drawings of like characters that they've created because they've watched the show. And like I'm genuinely holding back tears the entire day. Like that Core Comic Con one is nuts. Like I'm sure you would have seen it if you're there. It's just a
Mhm.
mad long queue
Very
all
cute.
day
Yeah.
long. So like the last one or was the one before, I can't remember which way it was. Like I literally sat down at 9 o'clock in the morning and didn't even get up to go to the toilet until 7 p.m. at night. Like I couldn't leave. It was just all kids. But it's really like it's really kind of affected me in a way of like this is like it's obviously personally lovely, but like I was each one of those kids back then. So we've caught and found something now that has a potential to help all of them stay creative. I think that there is a million more reasons now for kids to stop being creative. Like I obviously was getting loads of messages from parents when We Will Draw started going, what kind of pens will I get them? Should they get them into digital? And now some of them are like, oh, my kid is stopping art because they think there'll be no art because of AI jobs. So I think there's never been a more of a responsibility for someone like me to be out there to say, no, that's bullshit. Don't worry, there's going to be plenty of art jobs out there. So we're actually really ramping up everything that we're doing. So you've seen storytellers, you've seen Draw It Will. The next thing is going to be 10 times bigger than all of that, with the whole goal of keeping kids creative, create a kind of a universe in the same way that what Star Wars did for me to allow kids to just create stuff. I'm literally looking at loads of stuff from it right here on my desk and I can't share, but it's really, really exciting. We called Art Force, and yeah, it's going to be a fun next couple of years as all this stuff starts to appear and come out. So,
Very cool.
there you
Looking
go.
forward to that. Yeah, that's
Mm.
great. It's wonderful. As I say, I think it is a wonderful thing. I think it's important for kids to be creative, and like even my fiance's like got younger sisters, and I remember when they started talking about like what are we sisters into like drawing manga and stuff. And I
Mm.
was just like, buy her more things. Do you want me to go buy her some manga
Yeah,
books?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, feed the
Just
habit.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
Mm.
exactly.
I was
Mm.
in my dad's car today with my wee nephew, and he was showing me his colored ins while singing Despacito. So, so the kids haven't been ruined yet by technology.
Good. Good.
One of my favorite things though was whenever I think it was in Force Awakens came out, there was a Force Awakens coloring book. Have you seen this?
Oh,
One of the
yeah, I
images
think so.
was it was Kylo Ren, but it was like him in his black robes with the black mask and all. But the only thing you could really color in was his lightsaber, like
Okay.
color him red, and I was just kind of like,
That's
yeah.
interesting.
Well, I want to ask you something selfish. I know we're doing a big Star Wars, but I am a big Spider-Man man.
Oh.
So working on Spider-Man 2099,
Mhm.
with the legend Peter
Mm.
David, rest in peace. But we're working under Peter David, who had created that character so long ago. Were you able to gain a lot of knowledge from him as like sort of the master of his craft?
God, yeah. I've had a lot of fun moments with Peter, with him educating me about Miguel, where like the first couple of pages I drew him web swinging, and he's like, he doesn't web swing. And I was like, what? This is Spider-Man. And he's like, he glides everywhere. That's what he does. He might use it to fling himself up or whatever it might be, but not he's a glider. So like that's how it started. And what I loved about Peter is that like he would never hold back. He'd be straight, sharp, to the point. This is wrong. Do it like this. I, there was one time when I drew the Maestro, who is a future version of the Hulk, and I made his hair a bit too scraggly and wild and stuff like that. And he was correcting me, and he was like, "You've made him just look like me. Just tidy up his hair a little bit and power him on, you know." So lots of lovely moments like that. We did so many issues together. Like it was no chance I'll ever have a run as long as that. Like we literally went through like 40, 45 issues of Spider-Man 2099 and then went on Scarlet Spider together. Many, many years of my life, every single day. I've said this before, but I literally pinched myself when I was waking up to the fact that I was working on Spider-Man, Spider-Man 29, all these spider characters, Scarlet Spider, whoever it might have been. And I'll never forget the moment when I was called by Marvel. I knew I was getting a Spider-Man book, but I didn't quite know what it was, which character and stuff like that. And they were like, yeah, it's going to be Spider-Man 2099, and the writer's going to be Peter David. And the next line, they're like, do you know what this means? And I was like, oh my God, I do. Like it was just, it was huge. It was very early on in my career to get a book like that. It was a lot of luck and circumstance to get it. And it essentially set me off and helped me, move very far forward in my career. So yeah, it was wonderful.
And as toy boys like me and Danny, you say if you're Kylo Ren or your Ren, sorry, helmet, do you have a nice shelf of Miguel figures?
I certainly have some. They're spread out all over the place. I'll never pass up someone when he's in the white armor.
Mm.
Looking around, I have a bunch of Star Wars hot toys there, Marvel hot toys over there. I have some Masters of the Universe statues. I have a big, actually, I can put this online. I designed a huge Batman Year One statue for Prime One, so that's a monster there. And I have a Mandalorian statue over there. So I certainly, you kind of run out of shelf space pretty fast. That's the problem with toys, and then your house turns into it looking like a toy shop. So like, it's really hard to balance it all out. And I'm almost at the point of like one in, one out, and I don't want to do that. So I've kind of stopped for a little while, but maybe I'll just install some more shelves.
Yeah, that's the point I'm at. I'm just kind of
Yeah.
I've drawn up like a shelving unit that I want to build in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
like wee alcove
Yeah,
because
yeah.
what you don't see is just the amount of stuff just piled around me.
Yeah, yeah. It's the way it
So
goes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. And then very much my my fiance is like, if you bring any more shit into this house, and I'm like, I'll try not to, as he orders, Jar Jar Binks plush backpack, you know. But you mentioned there. So Obi-Wan Kenobi, is he? We'll go back to Star Wars. Back to Star Wars now. Obi-Wan Kenobi is your favorite character,
Yes,
and
from
why is
Star
that?
Wars. Yeah.
Yes, why is Obi-Wan the favorite?
I think because the first kind of movies that I got to go to properly in the cinema were the prequels, and I loved them. Loved all of the Clone Wars. Got to become quite pally with James Arnold Taylor actually through conventions and stuff, which was cool as well. So maybe that's kind of has impacted that. Who does the voice of Obi-Wan, of course, in the Clone Wars. Yeah, I think he stuck with me through. God, what year did 99? Oh, sorry, 25th. Okay, yeah. So like there you go. So it would have been my early teens. So like those were so I would have spent a good so many years with Obi-Wan. as one of the main characters, shall we say. I think that's probably why. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Obi-Wan's also my favorite because
Ah,
he's just, as you say, he's that kind of constant, and to see
yeah.
his
Well,
character
if you
progression.
actually go into it in the movies, I think he gets the most shit done, really, doesn't he? Like he kills the
Yeah,
most Sith, and I don't know if there's stats that way or whatever, but I'm pretty sure he's top of the pile when it comes to that stuff.
yeah.
So
Andy is the probably the main good thing about Attack of the Clones.
Mhm.
he's
His
brilliant in that as
yeah,
well. Yeah,
that's
yeah. And
that
he never really turns or he's constant and blah blah blah. So like yeah, there you go.
yeah,
Yeah.
he has so many moments to kind of he could go bad, but he doesn't. And yeah,
Yeah,
the Clone Wars I think as well really lets that shine through his character development
for sure.
through the Clone Wars is great.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
yeah, nice. What about then? You said so prequels are kind of the ones you got to enjoy in the cinema, and then obviously sequels, going to see all them in the cinema, and then kind of work with them as well.
Mm.
But do you have like a definitive favorite?
Probably Revenge of the Sith. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, probably that one.
Did you go to the screenings this year for the 25th anniversary?
No, I didn't have time. Wish I did. And I'm actually going through it and showing my kids at the moment. So we've just finished Attack of the Clones, but I plan on showing them all of the Clone Wars
You have to now.
and
Hell
then
yeah.
Revenge of the Sith. But like that's gonna absolutely mess them up.
Yeah, yeah.
So it really will. I like it's like the guy, and it's going to take a year to watch all of the Clone Wars cartoons. So they're going to be traumatized when he turns to Darth Vader. So there
Have
you
they not
go.
seen the original trilogy yet?
No, God, no,
Oh, so you're showing
nothing.
them in chronological
All the ways
order.
along, and I
That's
think that's
exciting.
a bigger, more messed up reveal than the one we've all been told is the biggest reveal because that's the way we all saw it. But like, if you're watching your hero be your hero for the best part of three movies and 6 or 7 seasons of an animated show,
Yeah.
there you
And
go.
now that you know that Gindy's Clone Wars is on Disney Plus as well, are you going to do Gindy's Clone Wars after
Do they tie
Lainey's Clone
in?
Wars? And then, yeah, because, well, sure, it ties directly into the start of
That's
Revenge of the
right.
Sith.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
you
Okay.
do
Yeah, you're right,
Filoni's Clone
actually.
Wars,
Yeah.
then Gindy's Clone Wars, and
I
then
will. I'll
Revenge of
do
the
that
Sith.
for as much for my own enjoyment then as well.
Yeah,
So yeah,
exactly.
there you go.
Perfect. All works out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy the Obi-Wan TV series?
Yeah, I did. I didn't think it was the best of them. Love seeing those characters. I thought we'd see a lot more of actually what we got to see in Ahsoka, which was the coolest thing out of all of that TV.
Mm.
And I hope that they do more of that because that was just incredible.
Were you raging that you didn't get to do the adaptation of Ahsoka?
I asked actually, but I
No.
was already on another Star Wars project, so I
Damn.
couldn't do it. And I would have loved to have done. I couldn't do. I was offered another one that I would have loved to do, and I couldn't. So there's a lot of timing and circumstance, especially now that I have TV kind of coming out of nowhere. So
Hmm.
a lot of my Star Wars projects start with, "Can you do this?" And I'm like, I really want to, but I don't know. And we try and work it out. Like I have two potential Star Wars projects ahead of me right now. I don't know if I'll be able to do both. There's one I would move everything for it to do, but I always want to do both of them because I just love doing it. Love it.
Danny,
Can you give hints?
he's
Can you
doing a
give us?
Max Rebo series. He's doing a Max
That's
Rebo
what it
Doing
series.
is.
Rebo, that's
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
there's your hint. Yeah, I'll tell you. Oh no, I'll tell you something definitive. It is not a Max Rebo book. So sorry.
Oh, okay. Sometime.
Sometime. Yeah.
Since we're on the subject of TV, I always ask my guests this. Danny loves it. Book of Boba Fett.
Mhm.
The the mod gang in the Book of Boba Fett.
Oh yes.
How
Yep.
much do you love them, Will?
It sounds like you do. Um, yeah, it's a loaded question. So I wouldn't say I love them more than I love other characters in Star Wars, if that's a fair way of saying it. Who did I love in that series the most? I like there's a load of that I loved. Cad Bane, finally seeing
Mm.
him in live action was just awesome. And it's really like some people didn't like that, like it filled into the Mandalorian world and stuff so much. I loved all of that, and I loved all of the way that like Mandalorian season 3 then goes full on Clone Wars stuff and everything like that. Like it was cool. So we should have we probably have when's Mandalorian out again?
Was the
Next
movie
May?
Next May. Wow. Okay, cool. Yeah, we just got the first picture of Starfighter as well, which is
Mhm.
awesome.
Yeah,
So
that dropping today
yeah, good
was very
times
much like,
ahead.
ooh, yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Mm.
Exciting times for Star Wars, absolutely.
Mm.
Gives us something to talk about, Danny.
Yeah, let's just keep going for a while. Yeah,
Well, you're
yeah,
definitely spoiled for a while. There was
yeah.
so much stuff coming out. Like I think it's good to take a little break. Like I'm buzzing for the Mandalorian movie now, definitely.
Mm. Yep. Have you, being associated with Lucasfilm, you may be like, oh, I don't sneak peeks, but have you watched the trailer? Have you checked it out?
Oh, it was leaked, is it? No, I
Mhm.
wouldn't. I would actually wouldn't. I'm actually moving even more over to try not to watch a trailer for any movie that I want to watch. I wish I had that power to do it because they spoil so much,
Mhm.
no matter what it is. Like sometimes you watch a trailer and you're like, all right, I know everything that's happening in this flipping movie now, so I'd love to be able to keep that stuff until I'm in there, especially when it comes to Star Wars. Because like if they ever have a huge character they reveal it. So they just can't. The marketing team can't handle it, and they're like, "Bah, there it is." Hey, we've upped the numbers, and it's rare we get those surprises anymore. So I'm gonna. Do you know what now? I've just decided I'm not going. Well, it's a little bit different with Star Wars because it just gets thrown in my face, I suppose. But maybe I'll try not to watch the trailers for that.
Will Charles ever just say, "I need you to draw Sigourney Weaver"? I can't tell you why, but
No, like everything that we do, very well done. Like there's a brilliant team inside there, and you'd never be kind of asked to do something kind of out of turn or anything like that. So, yeah.
is the editorial team for Star Wars and the editorial team for Spider-Man like different vibes, or are they?
Yeah, interesting question. For sure, only personality
Hmm.
reasons wise, those are the two I know the best. So one of those two offices, the head of them absolutely loves singing, and I've never heard the other one sing. So like, do you know what I mean? So they're definitely different that way, but that doesn't mean he doesn't.
You could say
Um,
Nick Lowe's
Nick
name.
Lowe loves singing. So and there's a terrible Irish accent which I
Oh
always
no.
remind him about. So because he's often on a great podcast called Glass Cannon, which is Dungeons and Dragons one. They often have Irish characters on there. When he does that, I just want to crawl. And he's been here in Ballycotton,
Mhm.
so he's no excuse. So
Because when the sort of office changed from Tom Brevoort to Nick, like I think it was Brevoort
which one?
before. Was it Tom
No,
Brevoort before Nick?
nope. Stephen Wacker.
Yes, Steve Marker,
So,
sorry.
mm.
You could sort of feel the change with Nick. Not to say that Steve is bad, but like Nick sort of brought a bit of freshness to the brand.
Oh, geez, like everything comes from the top down. So like like an editorial change should bring a change to different vibes and different tones to books and stuff like that for sure.
Mhm.
Mm.
Sorry, Daddy, my Spider-Man's coming out.
That's fine. It's okay. Again, we're both a couple of Spider-Men, as well as Star Wars boys. Well, we just started a Spider-Man podcast as
There
well.
you
Will you
go.
come back and talk Spider-Man
Yeah.
as well with us?
You don't have to
Um,
ask me twice, Daddy, you
yeah, yeah. You're just like, okay, let's do another thing. I'm sure we could probably ramble on like loads more about Star Wars with you, Will, but we'll save it. I think it would be great if you fancied coming on again, talking
For
about some of
sure.
your future Star Wars projects when you're able to
Yeah.
talk about them. But
Yeah.
is there anything that you can you want to talk about now or plug now that you can?
Well, I guess if you like the stuff that me and Charles are doing, check out the Shroud of College. We have our third volume of that called The Cold Witch coming out now. And I'm drawing some stuff from the fourth volume of it, which will be revealed what it is at the end of this fifth issue, which I think is out yesterday, actually. There you go. Yeah, the last one was out yesterday. I think. I never know anymore. So yeah, definitely give that a go. We got to design a lot of world stuff for Star Wars. Now we're designing our own kind of world, and that's kind of tearing it up in the world of like TV and adaptations and stuff like that. So that one might be the other way around for us, that like our comic gets turned into the screen rather than the screen stuff being turned into a comic. So yeah, there you go.
That'd be good.
Nice. Very
Hmm.
good.
Thanks for joining us, Will. It's been fantastic talking to you.
No worries. Thank you.
Danny, thanks for joining us as always.
Of course.
Um,
Thank you.
Thank you to Jonathan Song for our beautiful artwork and Andy Khars for our incredible theme song. If you liked
Yeah.
what you listened to, just keep listening to it in
Yeah.
that
And
in
then
that way.
subscribe, rate, comment if you can, share with your Star Wars pals, all that good stuff.
Yeah, and what have we got coming up? I'm sure we'll have some sort of competition coming up in the
Yeah.
future. Maybe even a Comic-Con appearance. We'll be somewhere,
Mhm.
But we'll wrap it up as we do always by letting everybody know that we have friends everywhere. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.